Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A very warm welcome to this Monday, 18th August 2025 morning Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 12, Creation of the Kumaras and Others, Text 2. Before we discuss on this verse, let's sing Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda Shri Radhe, Jai Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jai Nitai Sachinanda Gaura Hari, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवजकाचार्य श्रोत्र श्री श्रीमती स्वामी शिलाई से भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत गोपी वैष्णवंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोविंद श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, सामवेद भक्तवृंद की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishna Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarane. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Krishne Matirastu. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 12, Text 2. Sasarjagre Andhatamisram Adhatamisram Adikrit Mahamoham cha moham cha tamascha jnana vrittayah sasarjagre andhatamisram adhatamisram adikrit Mahamoham cha moham cha tamascha jnana vrittayah sasarjagre andhatamisram adhatamisram adikrit Mahamoham cha moham cha tamascha jnana vrittayah. Word by word. Sasarja, created, agre, at first. Andha tamisram, the sense of death. Atha, then. Tamisram, anger upon frustration. Adikrit, all these. Mahamoham, ownership of enjoyable objects. Cha, also. Moham, illusory conception. Cha, also. Tamaha, darkness in self-knowledge. Cha, as well as. Ajnana, nations. Vrittaya, engagements. Translation. Brahma first created the nascent engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, and the illusory bodily conception or forgetfulness of one's real identity. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Before the factual creation of the living entities in different varieties of species, the conditions under which a living being in the material world has to live were created by Brahma. Unless a living entity forgets his real identity, it is impossible for him to live in the material conditions of life. Therefore, the first condition of material existence is forgetfulness of one's real identity. And by forgetting one's real identity, one is sure to be afraid of death, although a pure living soul is deathless and birthless. This false identification with material nature is the cause of false ownership of things, which are offered by the arrangement of superior control. All material resources are offered to the living entity for his peaceful living and for the discharge of the duties of self-realization in conditioned world life. But due to false identification, the conditioned soul becomes entrapped by the sense of false ownership of the property of the Supreme Lord. It is evident from this verse that Brahma himself is a creation of the Supreme Lord, and the 5 kinds of nations which condition the living entities in material existence are creations of Brahma. It is simply ludicrous to think the living entity to be equal with the Supreme Being when one can understand that the conditioned souls are under the influence of Brahma's magic wand. Patanjali also accepts that there are 5 kinds of nations as mentioned herein. Before we discuss on this verse, let us offer some prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Shreshtam Manamapi Shachiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Murupurim Maturim Koshtapi Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sargana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Adadandastranam Dante Idam Yacha Punah Punah Shriman Rupa Padambhojam Dhulisyam Janma Janmani He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 12, Text 2. Sasarjagre andhatamisram athatamisram madikrit mahamoham cha tamascha jnana vrittayah. So Brahma first created the nascent engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, and the illusory bodily conception or forgetfulness of one's real identity. So in the previous chapter, chapter 11 that we discussed, there was mention of Kala, which is the time, and there were very detailed explanation of the different units of time. And we actually understood about the kalpas as well. The kalpa, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Maharyat Brahmano Vidu, Ratro Yuga Sahasrantam, Ahar Ratro Vide Jana. So it was mentioned about how thousands of the four ages, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So that the combination of them was 4.32 million, and then thousands, so that is 4.32 billion was the day of Brahma. That is a human calculation. And then the same 4.32 billion years is a night. So the vastness of time across the different planetary systems is unimaginable from the concept of human life. So that was the time aspect that we discussed, and it was really an interesting chapter. Now in this chapter, which is named as Creation of the Kumaras and Others, that is the chapter. So here the actual process of creation by Brahma is being mentioned in a very detailed way by Maitreya Rishi to Vidura, Mahatma Vidura. So this is what is the topic of discussion of devotees. Machchitta madgat prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So the pure devotees of Krishna, their minds are totally absorbed in Krishna. Machchitta, madgat prana. Whatever activities they are doing, that is being done as an offering of love to Krishna. So that is Yat karoshi yadashnasi yadjuhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. As Krishna mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, whatever you are doing, O Arjuna, yat karoshi yadashnasi yadjuhoshi, whatever you are eating, whatever you are giving, dadasi yat, whatever austerities you are performing, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, O son of Kunti, tat kurushva madarpanam. Krishna says, do it as an offering to me. So Maitreya Rishi and Mahatma Vidura, they are in that category, a category of pure love for Krishna. And this discussion, even though it is concentrating on the creation aspect, is certainly linked to Krishna consciousness. Why? Because aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samvita. Because one knows that everything is coming from Krishna. And now we are trying to understand in detail how everything is coming from Krishna. Yasyaika nishvasita kala mathavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanatha Vishnur mahan sa ihayasya kala vishesho govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. So when Mahavishnu is exhaling All these universes and Brahmas are coming out. And Mahavishnu is inhaling, everything is getting absorbed. So that is like a kalpa coming into existence and kalpa going out of existence. So basically that one moment of Mahavishnu is like that 4.32 billion years of human calculation for Brahma. So that is Brahma's one day, one night. So 12 hours plus 12 hours. So it's just in that sense, it is, and this Mahavishnu is a Nishvasita Kala Mathavalambya. So when he is breathing out, exhaling, the universes are coming out, inhaling, it is going on. This is Kala Visheshu. Sekanishvasya Kala Mathavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanganatha Vishnur Mahansa Ihayasya Kala Visheshu. Govinda Madi Purushottamam Bhajami. So this Mahavishnu is Ite Chamsha Kala Pumsa. Kala, Amsha and Kala. Expansion and the expansion of the expansions. Ite Chamsha Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hridyanti Yuge Yuge. So this is the greatness of Krishna, that everything is coming from Krishna. He's got his spiritual expansions, and then there is material expansions that are coming from his expansions of expansions. So, for example, if we look at Brahmaji, he's coming from the navel of Mahavishnu. The Garbhodakshaya Vishnu lying in the ocean on Ananta Shesha. So Brahmaji has come in, he doesn't understand what he has to do. So we have discussed all these in the previous chapters. Then he hears the word tapaha, that means austerity. So he meditates on Krishna for millions and millions of human years, if we consider it from that perspective. And then he understands the reason for his existence. And he knows that he has to engage in the process of creation of the material universe. And this is the first thing after Brahmaji has got that understanding of what he has to do. What is the first thing that he is creating? So it is the basis of the material existence. And the basis of material existence is unfortunately Jada. It's not Chaitanya. Jada and Chaitanya are the difference between one in a conditioned state of existence and one in a liberated state of existence. So in the conditioned state of existence, the Jada aspect, Jada means that which is non-living on its own. For example, the body, if it is just existing on its own, it has no value. When there is Chaitanya, when there is consciousness within the body, then the body has got value. Otherwise it is Jada. Otherwise it is, it does not have any value. It just decomposes. By itself, if the body does not have consciousness. So this is what is the difference between a living body and a dead body. That is, न जायते म्रियते व कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भवितवान् भूया अजो नित्यं शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणं न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. So that particular aspect is there within the body. Dehi nosmin yatha dehe. There is a proprietor of the body within the body, and that proprietor is never born. And because the proprietor is never born, the proprietor never dies. And that is consciousness. And so, if we look at it from this perspective of, if we come down from the fourth line in this verse, tamas cha jnana vrittaya. So, cha ajnana vritti. Ajnana vritti is that the thing that we have within us, which is ignorance. So ignorance is the cause of all the other impurities, because of which we are not situated in our original eternal position. Yaya sammohito jivo atmanam trigudatmakam Paropi manute anartham tat kritam cha vipadyate. As it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, when the jiva, the living entity, is sammohita, samyak rupena mohita. That means totally under the influence, enamored by the material energy of the Lord. Mohitam nabhi janati mamebhya paramavayam. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that when the living entity is under the influence of the modes of material nature, tribhir gunamair bhavar ebi sarvam idam jagat. When one is under the influence of the three modes of material nature, mohitam, one becomes enamored. So ignorance is the first cause. When one is ignorant, ignorant from what? Ignorant from this understanding that I am never born. And Atmanam Trigunatmakam. That is what is mentioned here. So when we understand that the Atma is not under the Tribhir Gunamair Bhavar, under the influence of the three modes of material nature. Paropi Manute Anartham. So actually the living entity is Paraha, transcendental. They are never under the influence of material modes of nature. But Manute Anartham. But unfortunately they think that they are under the influence of Anartha. Anartha is Anarthopasamam Sakshat Bhakti Yoga Madhokshaje Lokasya Janatah Vidvams Chakre Satvata Samhitam. So this is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Why Srimad Bhagavatam is created. So it is Anartha Upasamam Sakshat. It is to take away the anarthas. Anarthas is unwanted things. So unfortunately, the first things that were created by Brahma is unwanted from the perspective of liberation, but it is wanted from the perspective of conditioned existence in this material universe. So for the material universe to persist, these ingredients are essential. The ingredients that are mentioned in this particular verse. So first is Ajnana Vritti, Moham, Mahamoham, then Tamisram, Andha Tamisram. And so Srila Prabhupada actually mentions in the end, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions, the Patanjali also mentions about the Pancha Vritti, this Pancha Klesha, the 5 kinds of impurities that exist in the material existence. So there is Ajnana, Avidya. Avidya is Vidya is knowledge. Avidya is ignorance. Jnana is knowledge. Ajnana is ignorance. So Vidyam cha Vidyam chaiva yastad veda ubhayam saha. Avidyaya mrityam tirtva Vidyaya amritam ashnute. It is mentioned in Sri Ishopanishad that one has to know both Vidya and Avidya. One has to know both knowledge and ignorance. So when one knows knowledge, one knows that one is eternal. One never takes birth and one never dies. And when one knows ignorance, one understands the cycle of birth and death. So one has to know both Vidya and Avidya ubhayam saha. Both of them together. That is really important. So that is when one is in that state of knowledge, so that is a transcendental knowledge. Then one knows that the existence is a combination of Vidya and Avidya. Material existence. Now Vidya is that Dehi, the proprietor of the body, the consciousness, which is a part and parcel of the Supreme Satchidananda, Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, eternally existing, eternally conscious and eternally blissful. That's what we are at every moment in our existence. Whether we are existing in the spiritual world or whether we are existing in the material world, it does not matter. We are always an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And not only that, the loving Lord is there in the heart of all the living entities as Paramatma as well. Upadrashta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhukta Maheshwara Paramatniti cha Pyukto Dehesmin Purusha Para. So within the body there is this transcendental person. That is Paramatma, the super soul. Do suparna sayoja sakaya samana vrakshe parishajya jate. So it is mentioned in the scriptures that there are two birds that are sitting on the same tree. One bird is enjoying the fruits, the other bird is just looking at the bird enjoying the fruits. So that is the difference between the Atma, which is seemingly under the influence of the material energy of the Lord, and the Paramatma. Actually, the one under the influence of the material energy is false ego. So that's why ahankara vimudhatma karta ahamiti manyate. Ya pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sa pashyati. So it is mentioned, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that one who sees that that the real self is akarta, is not doing anything. That person is actual seer, actually sees. So that means, how is this whole world going on? So it is the ajnana vritti that is the cause of this existence of this material world. As it is mentioned here, tamascha ajnana vrittaya. So Patanjali's Panchaklesha then, just like here there is ajnana, avidya is mentioned, avidya. So that is the first klesha. Because there is avidya, because there is ignorance, there is asmita. The asmita means there is this false ego. This false ego thinking that this body is a very important truth, or is the only truth, depending on, unfortunately, what category of living entity one is. One might even think that the bodily existence is the only existence. There is no other existence outside the bodily existence. If one thinks from that perspective, unfortunately, one is in a very strong state of ignorance. The ajnana vritti is very strong. If one thinks that the bodily existence is the only existence, if one cannot distinguish between the body and consciousness, that is the beginning, and that is why Krishna says adhyatma jnana nityatvam. Krishna says tattva jnanartha darshanam etad jnanam iti proktam yadato ajnanam anyatha. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that he considers that as real knowledge. Krishna, which knowledge is Krishna considers as real? Adhyatma jnana. Adhyatma is when one is trying to understand one's actual existence. When one is asking, is one this body? So even if you look at it from the perspective of just normal logic, no one says I body. People say my body. If you say then am I mind? No one says I mind. They say my mind. So if we continuously try to inquire, then the question comes, if I'm saying my, then who am I? Once we try and get to that basic question of who am I, kastvam, koham, kuta ayata. This is what is aham brahmasmi. Then one understands that one is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. So the important point that one has to engage in is whenever yadyad nishcharati manaschanchalam asthiram tatas tatad niyamyetad atmanyeva vasham nayet. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, whenever the mind is going after the sense objects, nishcharati. Nishcharati is that the proclivity of the mind to continuously keep going out. That is nishcharati. Yato nishcharati. Whenever and wherever the mind is continuously going out towards the sense objects, tatas tatat niyamya etad atmanyeva vasham nayet. Each of those places, each of those times, one has to bring it back to the source So the source is that ahankara vritti. This ajnana vritti is causing the ahankara vritti, which is, if you look at it from the words mentioned here, you got the ajnana, moham, mahamoham, tamisram, andhatamisram. So if you say ajnana is the avidya, as Patanjali's Yoga Sutra Panchaklesha mentions, then we have asmita. Asmita, we can just take it as this thinking that I am this body, and there is no other existence other than this body and the mind. That is asmita. So because I do not have the actual knowledge that I am an eternal part and parcel, I never take birth, I never die, I come under the influence of thinking that the only existence that exists is this body and mind that I have now, through which I am interacting with this material universe. So basically, because since time immemorial, the living entity has got this desire to engage in material activities, this material playground has been created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of Brahma to fulfill the desires of the living entities. So the living entity is, this is the greatness of Krishna, that the living entities have got this independence to either choose knowledge or choose ignorance, unfortunately. So if one chooses knowledge, then one is in a liberated state of existence. What does it mean by liberated state of existence? It means that there is sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujasva naivam papamam apsisi, as Krishna mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So whether there is externally there might be a lot of happiness, externally there might be a lot of sorrow. One is yona khrushyati na dveshti na shochati na kamshati, shubha shubha parityagi yomad bhakta cha me priya. And so Krishna mentions in Bhakti Yoga chapter very beautifully, Krishna describes about the qualities of a person who is in pure devotional service. Krishna, yona khrushyati na dveshti, na shochati na kamshati. So that person, so it's not that they are like a robot in one sense, that they're not experiencing anything. They're experiencing everything as anyone else is experiencing. But internally they are purely connected with Krishna. So in that pure connection, and that connection is always existing. It's not that only the pure devotee has got that connection. The connection is there for everyone, but the pure devotee is in that state of realization. And why is the pure devotee in the state of realization? Because they desired that. So it is the desire of the living entity due to which the conditions of the living entity happens. Whatever condition one finds in, it is caused by the innumerable desires that one has. And those desires, if it is based on avidya and asmita, then there is raga and dvesha. So this is what is Patanjali's Panchaklesha, the 5 kinds of impurities that Patanjali mentions. Ignorance causes the condition of false ego, asmita. False ego, when I am attached to this particular condition that I have, that is physio-psycho condition. So that means the bodily and mental condition that I have at this particular moment, this particular body and mind has got likes for certain things and dislikes for certain other things. That is what is raga and dvesha. So strong attachment to the things that I like and strong detachment from the things that I don't like. So if I do not get the things I like, I am in a very desperate state of existence. I kind of think that, it is miserable now. And if I get the things which I dislike and I have to be in that situation, again, it is a state of desperation. So this is the unfortunate situation in this material existence. So this raga and dvesha is associated with the particular kaya, the particular bodily existence that we have. So that is what is avidya asmita. So you've got ignorance, you've got false ego, which is giving rise to attachment and repulsion. Strong attachment and strong repulsion. That is what is raga and dvesha. And then the final thing is abhinivesha, that Patanjali mentions. That is the fear of death. So the cause of all this is ignorance. The ignorance causes the false ego. The false ego causes the strong attachment and repulsion. And the ignorance and false ego also cause the fear of death. This is what is, if you look at it from this perspective that is mentioned in this particular verse, you've got the ajnana vritti, which is the avidya that Patanjali mentions, then moham and mahamoha. So if you look at, if you say moham and mahamoham, we can, and then tamishram and andha tamisram. So you can say that andha tamisram is like the false ego. It is like a total, one is in a total state of thinking that this bodily existence and the existence with the mind is the only existence. There is nothing other than this. That is a very unfortunate kind of situation. Somehow or other, if one gets this Brahma Jnana, what is a Brahma Jnana? It is Aham Brahmasmi. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Shochati na Kamshati. Samas Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. As Krishna mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, when one is in that situation of Aham Brahmasmi, knowing that I am an eternal part and parcel of Krishna, then one is in a totally blissful state of existence. Prasannatma. Why is one is in a totally blissful state of existence? Because there is no raga and dvesha. There is no shochati and kamshati. The kamshati is hankering after the things that I want, that I want to possess. And shochati or lamentation is I try very, very hard to possess the things, and if all the conditions are favorable, then I get the thing. But after I get the thing, I'll be happy for some time, whatever the time may be. But that happiness starts subsiding. And then I will come to a base state of existence where I need to have another desire to keep me in a state of excitement. So this whole existence in this material universe is based on keeping that state of excitement for matter. That's why it is material world. So possessing things. This is why it is called bhoga ishwarya prasattanam. There is bhoga. One has to keep. One wants to keep the sense of excitement and enjoyment alive. And one wants to keep that as the base state of existence, rather than being in that base state of pure joy, independent of possessing anything. So the real happiness is, that's why the Ramante Yogina Anante verse is extremely important. That Ananda Ramanti, constant bliss, is only possible when one is in that state of peacefulness. And that is our original state. Ashantasya kutah sukham. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya nacha ayuktasya bhavana. Nacha bhavayada shanti ashantasya kutah sukham. Krishna mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that if one is not in a peaceful state of existence, how can one be happy? There is a basic state in which one can have the real happiness. the real bliss. There is a state of understanding that prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hi aso buddhi paryavatishtate. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that when one takes everything as a costless mercy of Krishna, prasade, prasada, that is the costless mercy. So when sarva dukkhanam hanirasya upajayate, whatever, if there is any kind of dukkha, any kind of sorrow that one gets, one can remain free from all kinds of so-called happiness and so-called sorrows in life. Why prasanna chetaso hi asau? Because the chetasa, the mind, is prasanna. Prasanna is in that blissful state of existence. Why? Because the mind is absorbed in the lotus feet of Krishna. Savai manah Krishna padarvindam. So when the mind is totally absorbed in the lotus feet of Krishna, whatever one gets, basing on whatever actions one performs, is accepted by that devotee as an offering from costless mercy, offering of costless mercy from Krishna. Prasade sarva prasanna chetaso yasa buddhi pari avatishtate. What Krishna mentioned in the verse of Bhagavad Gita is the buddhi, the intelligence, becomes established in pari avatishtate. It is avatishtate means it is sitting at a higher level, at a transcendental level. So then this is what is the real goal of human form of life. When one understands that in the material existence, and that's why this verse is extremely important, because this verse is saying that sasarja, agre. So at first, the Brahmaji created what? All this ajnana. So he created the nations. He created the ignorance, avidya, because that is the basis of material existence. If one is in pure knowledge, then even though physically and mentally one is in this material world, one is actually not in this material world. If one has pure knowledge. Why? Because one knows that Narayana parasarvena kutaschana bibhyati swarga apavarga narakeshu apitulyartha darshina. So one knows that when someone is totally surrendered onto Narayana, Shri Krishna, then there is no fear. One can remain in Swarga, the heavenly planet, and be free from all difficulties and enjoy limitlessly, so-called limitlessly, but there is still a limit there. From the human perspective, it might be limitless, similar to limitless, but Kshine Punya Punya Martha Lokam Vishanti. That is mentioned by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. When the pious credits are exhausted, one comes back to this material world, to the earthly planetary system. And again, when one gets the human form of life, one can create those pious credits. Or depending on if one does bad actions, one has the impious credits. And then impious credits, urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhya tishtati rajasa jaganya guni vritastha adho gachanti tamasa. As it is mentioned by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, when one is predominantly situated in the mode of goodness, one goes to the upper planetary systems. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha. When one is predominantly in the mode of passion, urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhya tishtati rajasa. One is in the middle planetary system, mainly the earth planetary system. And then jaganya guni vrittistha. When one is in the very ignorant state of existence, tamo adho gachanti tamasa. One goes into the lower planetary system in the mode of ignorance. If one is predominantly in the mode of ignorance, one goes into the lower planetary system. So this is what is Rupe Brahmanda Brahmite. So the living entity is therefore unfortunately constantly punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, constantly taking birth, constantly dying in Punarapi Janani Jatare Shayanam, different wombs of different mother, in different species of life. Even within the earth planetary system, you've got different species of life. And if we look at the different planetary systems, the upper, middle and lower planetary system, again, there are different species of life. So Brahmanda Brahmite, when one is in that state of ignorance, Agyana Vritti, which is mentioned in this verse, Erupe Brahmanda Brahmite. So the living entities are unfortunately taking birth in different species of life within the same planet or in different planetary systems, upper and lower and middle planetary systems. Then it says, Kono Bhagyavan Jeev in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that some fortunate living entity. What is that some fortunate living entity, what fortune do they get? Guru Krishna Kripaya Pai. So they get the costless mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna. And then when they get that costless mercy, there is Bhakti Lata Beach. There is this seed of loving devotional service that gets sown in the heart of the living entity. And when that seed is sown, and when the living entity, through their own desire, puts in, so first of all, the land has to be fertile for the seed to grow. What does this fertility of the land mean? It means that the heart has to have that love for the Lord. And when that seed of devotion is in that fertile land, the fertile heart of that living entity, and when there is the sunshine and the water that is given to the seed, then the seed starts growing. It becomes a plant, it becomes a tree, and then finally it grows so large that it goes under the lotus feet of the Lord in Goloka Vrindavan Dham. So this is that metaphor to understand. So what is that? The sunshine and the giving of water. So that is the different ways of engaging in remembering Krishna. So when the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnum, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, Srila Prahlad Maharaj mentions in Srimad Bhagavatam the 9 different kinds of engaging oneself in the loving devotion service of Krishna. Starting with hearing, Shravanam. When one is hearing about Krishna, then one can do Kirtanam, one can talk about Krishna. When there is hearing and talking about Krishna, then there is Smaranam, one remembers Krishna. Smaranam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnum, Smaranam, Padasevanam. Then one can engage in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Archanam, one can offer flowers to the Lord. Vandanam, one can say prayers to the Lord. Dasyam, one can become the servant of the Lord. Sakyam, one can become the friend of the Lord. And Atmanivedanam, total, complete surrender in the lotus feet of the Lord. So that is, the beginning is Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Parayoda. So when one is engaged in hearing about Krishna, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabonoi. It is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the love for Krishna is Nitya Siddha. Nitya is eternally, Siddha is achieved, eternally perfect. So it is not a like you've got a Yoga Siddhi, for example, the Ashta Siddhi, Anima, Laghima, Mahima, Garima, Prapti, Prakamya, Ishitva, Vishitva. So all these are Yoga Siddhis, the Ashta Siddhi. That is, so one is engaging in different activities to get the Ashta Siddhi externally. But this Siddhi, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, it is not a sadhya. It is not something that is, so you got a sadhana, you got sadhak, and you got sadhya. Sadhana is the process of devotional service. Sadhak is a person who is executing the process of devotion service, and sadhya is the goal, the Lord. The Lord is the sadhya. So you got the Lord, you got the devotee, and you got the process of devotion. The sadhya, the sadhak, and the sadhana. So nitya siddha Krishna prema sadhya ka bola. And so attaining the Lord is not external. The Lord is always there with the living entity. As we were giving the example of the two birds, one bird is really busy eating the fruits of that whatever it is, and the other bird is constantly looking at this bird which is eating the fruit. So this eating the fruit bird, by some grace, if it looks at this bird, this is what is we've got this anadi bahirmukha jeev, Krishna bhuli gela. Since time immemorial, the living entity is bahirmukha. The Lord is always looking at the living entity. And at which moment this living entity is going to look at me. Antarmukha. So when one becomes antarmukha, that is when one is actually understanding the presence of the Lord everywhere, within us and everywhere. This is what is yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasya hamna pranashyami sa cha mena pranashyati. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that when one sees the Lord in everything and everything in him, sarvam cha mai pashyati, one looks, this is what is the Uttamadhikari. Uttamadhikari, the topmost devotee of the Lord. They are when they are looking at the different living entities, they are seeing that all these living entities are eternal part and parcels of Krishna. So there is no, they are not distinguishing on the basis of the external body, because they know that the body is temporary. It is not the actual person. The actual person is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. So there is this Sarva Bhuteshu ya pashyat bhagavad bhavam atmana bhutani bhagavati atmani esha bhagavatottama. That is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, that Sarva Bhuteshu ya pashyat. So one who sees in all the living entities bhagavad bhavam atmana. One sees that the Lord is present in the heart of all these living entities. Bhutani Bhagavati Atmani. All the living entities are actually an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. That is Bhutani Bhagavati Atmani. Esha Bhagavatottama. Such a person is the topmost devotee, Uttama Adhikari. In that sense, then even though one is, that is what we were saying, Narayana Parasarvena Kutarshina Vidyati. Swarga, Pavarga, Narakesha, Pitulyartha Darshana. Then it does not matter whether one is in the spiritual world or one is in the material world, it does not matter. Because the mind is totally absorbed in Krishna. The mind sees Krishna everywhere. Rasoham apsu kanteya prabhasmi shashi sureyo pranava sarva vedeshu shabdam khay parusham drushu. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that and the taste in water. So for the body to subsist, one has to drink water. So immediately one can remember Krishna. The light coming from sun, moon, electricity. We always, to perform any activity, the light is needed. Immediately the Lord, remember the Lord. Pranava sarva vedeshu. Any kind of Vedic mantra starts with Omkara, Pranava mantra. Krishna says, I am Omkara mantra. Immediately remember Krishna. Shabdam Khay. Any kind of voice that comes in the ether. Krishna says that how can one forget Krishna? So, and Krishna says, I am the silence as well. So, Amritam chaiva mrityuscha sadasachaham Arjuna. Tapamyaham aham varsham nigranami utsrajami cha. Krishna says that I am the scorching heat, I am also the rain. I am the person who takes everything, and I am the person who gives as well. Nigranami utsrajami cha. I am eternal. The eternality is me, and I am also death. Amritam chaiva mrityuscha. Krishna is the truth, Sat, and Krishna is also the Asat. Sadasachaham Arjuna. So this is the concept of Asat here. All these 5 elements that have been described by Brahma, created by Brahma initially, is Asat. It is not the actual existence that we have as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. It is the covering. So the covering is, the ingredients for the covering is created first. And these are the ingredients of covering. And the ingredients is Sasarja Agre Andhatamisram Tamisram Athatamisram Adikrit Mahamoham Cha Moham Cha Tamascha Jnana Vrittaya. So you got the Agyana Vritti, which is ignorance. Then you have Moham and Mahamoham. The Moham is the attachment, and Mahamoham is strong attachment, a strong bewilderment. Then you have got Tamisram and Andhatamisram. Tamisram is the whole concept of one coming under the influence of the material nature, which is causing. This is what is Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada and Matsarya. The 6 enemies of the living entity in this material existence. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna Samudbhava, Mahashano, Mahapapma, Vidyena, Miha, Vairina. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that when there is avidya, when there is ignorance, there is asmita, the false ego. The false ego is causing raga and dvesha, strong attachment and strong repulsion. Strong attachment to things I like, strong repulsion from the things I don't like. That is where the kama is coming. So kama is that the strong attachment to the things that I like. And then when I do not get what I like, I got krodha. I'm getting angry. I tried so hard to get what I wanted, but I did not get it. So I get angry. So this is what is Rajo Guna Samudbhavam. Krishna says this is what is the mode of passion. Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajo Guna Samudbhavam, Mahashano, Mahapapma. Krishna says that this is the actual cause of all the sinful activities that the living entity does. Mahashano, Mahapapma, Vidyena Miha Vairina. Krishna says, know them to be your enemies. And unfortunately, when one is in that Agyana Vritti stage, when one is in the state of ignorance, one considers his enemies as one's friends. So because of ignorance, all these, the kama, lust, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, which is strong attachment, mada and matsarya. The influence of pride, and matsarya is jealousy. So all this is the cause of this material creation. All these thought process in the living entity causes the material creation, and that's why the material world exists. It exists so that the living entities can start working towards understanding their true nature. And once they understand their true nature as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna, Mama eva amsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that all the living entities are my eternal part and parcels. Mama eva amsha. Sanatana, eternally. Then why do we struggle in this material universe? Karshati is struggle. Mamaivaamsha jivaloka jivabhuta sanadana manaha shashtani indriyani. When we identify ourselves with the mind and the five senses, the mind being the sixth sense, prakriti sthani karshati. There is a struggle in this material universe. To conclude this discussion, the important thing we have to understand is it is the desire of the living entities which is the cause of the material creation. Now, the living entities have this desire to somehow enjoy this illusory existence in this material world, and then the Lord is creating this material world through the agency of Brahma. And when Brahma is creating this, the first thing that gets created is Ajnana Vritti, Moha, Mahamoha, Tamisram, and Andha Tamisram. Ajnana Vritti is the ignorance, Moham, the attachment, Mahamoham, the stronger attachment, Tamisram, this strong sense of attachment and repulsion for the things that we like and the things that we don't like. And then Andha Tamisram is Abhinivesha. Abhinivesha is the fear of death. So this is how we can relate this particular aspect to Patanjali's Panchaklesha that is mentioned by Patanjali, which is Avidya, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha, and Abhinivesha. So that is Ajnana, Moha, Mahamoha, Tamisram, and Andha Tamisram. So with us, thank you very much for listening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarane. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Krishne Matirastu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.